It's finally that time of year. It's lobster season. It is currently the 23rd of September and the season starts at 6 p.m. Pacific on the 26th. So this is a video. I'm going to be going over what you are required to have and some of the other stuff that you don't have to have, but I think it's nice. So it's going to be a quick informational video. And then at the end, I'll also share some of my techniques when I go after lobster at night and also during the day. So stay tuned. We're going to be going over those. So first, the gear. You must have a fishing license and a saltwater extension. So that gives you the ability to fish in saltwater. And in addition to that, for lobster season, you need to get one of these. This is what you call a lobster card or a report card. It's this massive sheet, and yes, this needs to be on you. I believe it's 100 yards from where you're fishing, but this needs to be filled out before and after you dive. So there are five columns. It says month, day, location code, gear code, and lobsters harvested. The first four columns must be filled out prior to you hitting the water. So obviously month, day is pretty self-explanatory. The location code is going to be where you're diving, and if you need to know, or you have to know where you're diving, there is a guide at the bottom of this report that will tell you which location you are. If you're not sure, do some Googling. So for example, if you're in the Los Angeles County area, so like number 50 is LA County line up to San Pedro. If you're not sure where that is, so typically what this does is this goes from south to north, I believe. Yeah, south to north. So use that as a reference point. It doesn't jump around the numbers. So for example, it's the outside of Catalina Island. It starts at San Diego County, and then it moves up to Orange County, and then LA County, and then Ventura County. So imagine going up from there, try to find a spot you're familiar with, and then work up, and then double check that you are in that spot. What I do is just Google the 2 points that it's referencing. You have a pretty good idea of where you are. So it just follows from south to north. And then once you have your location code, it's going to be gear code. And if you're diving, free diving, then it's going to be always 4. 4 is skin diving using a snorkel. Always going to be 4. So you fill those out, and then after you finish diving, if you're out of the water, whether you caught lobster or not, if you caught some, you're going to write the number you caught at the last column where it says lobsters retained. If you didn't catch any, you still have to write 0. So make sure you do that. So yes, you need this, and what I paid was $12.45 for this card, and you must have this when you dive. If you lose it, you can get a reprint. You can pay, go to a tackle shop, you could go to like a Big 5, anywhere that can print one of these. You can get a reprint and keep going, but you must have a lobster card. After that, you must have something to measure the carapace of the lobster. The minimum the minimum size of the carapace of the lobster has to be 3¼ inch. And how you do that, here I have a couple gauges here. These two are the same. I bought these on Amazon. They're really cheap. But I also have a nicer one. These are made out of aluminum. I believe this is a stainless steel. These I bought from Amazon. I don't know the brand, but it's like the cheapest one you can find. I'll leave a link in the description, but I got this one from my local dive shop, Spear America. Stainless steel, much more heavy duty. They both do the same thing. But this one you can see is attached to a light. This is an old light I had, the Princeton Tech 420. But all it's using is a hose clamp, standard hose clamp, and then just make sure it's the right size for the light. But you need a gauge. Each person needs a gauge. So whether if you're diving with a buddy and you have everything except the gauge, in theory, if California Fish and Game was to check you, that's a violation. Everyone has to have a gauge. You can't just borrow gauges. But yeah, must have a gauge, and the carapace must be 3¼ inches long, minimum. And how you measure that is by between the eyes. Make sure when you push in between the eyes, they're gonna kind of point in from the pressure. They're gonna point in, and that's when you know you have a good feel. It's not just lightly putting it in the front. You wanna be relatively aggressive with it, hook it in the front, and then go back. So if these are the eyes, in, then to the back. And then you wanna make sure it's definitely clear. If it's like a maybe, a clicker, we call them, just let them go. It's not worth it. So gauge, you must have some sort of gauge to measure your lobster in the water. This cannot be done outside of the water. You can't grab like an extra 2 or 3 lobster, more than 7, and then go to shore, measure them, and then throw some back. It has to be all done in the water. And that brings me to the other rule. A maximum lobster bag per day is 7 per person. You can't have more, you can't have less actually. You can't have more than 7. And that's key, the bag, the verbiage, bag limit per day per person. I think you know where I'm going with this, but everyone needs a bag. You cannot share bags, technically. If you are caught by, or you checked by California Fish and Game, they will ask you for your bag of lobster. If you have more than that and you say it's, you're holding it for a friend, but they have everything else except the bag, I know they don't like that. So make sure everyone has their own bag. So on the topic of bags, there's 2 different styles. So one, something like this. This is some bag I got from Amazon, but there are much nicer ones. This one just has your standard opening, a little smaller than most. There's some bags out there that are spring loaded where you squeeze the handle, opens up, you let go, and it closes by itself, which is nice because if you happen to miss securing the bag with this clip, this opens up in the water and your lobsters are gone. Ask me how I know. But yeah, so there's a bag like this, which you can clip this on yourself on like a D-loop or whatnot. It's very cumbersome, but typically this is on a float that you're pulling around. So for simplicity's sake, let's call this a float bag. And the other bag style is having it on you. So this is a mutiny dive bag or lobster bag. There are different versions of this from multiple different brands, but essentially you wear this like a belt. So wear it around you, and there is a piece of elastic. I'm gonna pull this up just for demonstration purposes. So you grab your lobster, and when you pull it in, you open this up, put your lobster in here, close it, and it'll essentially get caught in this bag. This bag can hold 7 lobsters. It's tight, but you can do so. This is the Mutiny bag, but Spear Pro has some, and some other brands have some as well, but the waist bag. Depending on where you're diving, there's some pros and cons for each. For example, if you're going through kelp, where a hanging bag on a float is just gonna catch on every single piece of kelp, I would probably opt in for the waist bag. The cons of the waist bag is that you're dragging a lot of weight, and also hopefully it's a good problem to have, once you start filling this thing with lobster, it gets kind of annoying to maneuver once you're grabbing for more. We're going for your 6th, 7th lobster. It gets a little bit annoying. It's a good problem to have, but it does get annoying. So obviously with the float, having a bigger bag on a float, you don't have to deal with that. You put the lobster away, and then you're off to grab more. So yeah, we have the lobster card. You need a bag, and you need a gauge, some sort of gauge, 3¼ inch. So those are the technical must-haves. The unofficial must-have is a light. So we have shared with you the Princeton Tech here. This is a 420, tried and true, polymer construction. There's that. This is like an Orca torch. This is an Orca torch. ZD710 is a zoomable dive light I've reviewed before. I have this OD Pro light SD1500. I have an X-Tar light, but you want a torch. You want a hand torch to look through holes, because that's where the lobsters are gonna be. Even at night, they could be roaming around, which they probably will, but if you're going at night, you wanna be able to see. You need some sort of dive light. I highly suggest you get a dive light with a strong center point or a beam. Let's see if I can demonstrate with this. For demonstration purposes, it's hard to see on camera, but there's like a stronger circle in the front or in the center, and then like this aura around this, like diffuse light around it. That's what you're looking for. That's what I suggest. Instead of a massive floodlight, you want to have a concentrated beam, but also have a diffused aura around it. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is when you're going for lobster, they get spooked. Especially when season starts going, they're gonna be very, very skittish. And if you shine that beam directly, any beam directly onto the lobster, they're gone, typically. So what I like to use is the edge of that dispersed light that's not as strong. I use that to illuminate the lobster. And then for the stronger beams, I use it from the top when I want to look down and kind of use it as a spotlight from the top. But once I get close and I'm ready to grab, I'll typically have it on my left hand, and I use that glow to light up the lobster, and then I go with my right, typically. So yeah, that's my suggestion. There are so many lights on the market. Find one that fits you best. The rechargeable battery ones are great, but you do want a dive light. Outside of that, so I would say that's kind of like an unofficial need to have, because most of the time you are diving at night, and if you are diving during the day, you're hole hunting, so you definitely need a light. So technically not in the rules to have one, but you need one. Extra stuff that I highly suggest you have is some sort of beacon light. So this light or indicator light, hard to see on camera. This is a light that I bought from a trade show. I forgot the brand, but some sort of light to let your buddies know where you are. So this either goes on your float, or what I suggest is putting something on your belt in the back, or something when you're diving, your buddies know where you are. Whether you're in the water, where it's an indicator light above the water, right where you are, on a float line perhaps, or it's on you and somewhere, if it is on you, somewhere behind. So when you're down and you're snorkeling around, they can see you. This is very, very important. Despite the torch being very, very bright, whatever torch you get, it's very difficult to see once it's in the water. And the vantage points aren't very good because you're in the water, you're level with the top of the water, so it's kind of tough to see. You would think it's a little bit easier. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend, for safety purposes, some sort of indicator light. And if you do have one, there are plenty on the market where you just add a AAA battery. I have this one and another one, and I just turn this on right before I dive, go in, do my thing, and then come back and turn this off. And your buddies will thank you for it. This is kind of the overkill portion, but we have here, this is another light, as you can tell, but it's shaped a little bit differently. This is the Orca Torch TD01. No, I'm not sponsored by them by any means. I love this light. What this is it's advertised to be a headlight. So it's up here usually, or that's what they suggest. But for me, what I do is actually, I bought this like action camera GoPro chest mount. What I do during lobster season is I have my torch. Obviously I haven't put this on in a while. So I put my wetsuit on, just imagine me with my wetsuit on. I have my vest on, and then I put this on top. A lot of stuff. This has the action cam mount here. This goes on a GoPro action cam mount, and it's right here. And what I do with this is when you want to measure your lobster or handle something with both hands, this is clutch because it's right here. I turn it on and I essentially, imagine this is on the chest mount, and now I have two hands to measure the lobster, and even if the gauge is not on my light, I can pull out the gauge and hold it with one hand and then measure. And then if it's good, open up my bag and put the lobster in there and have both of my hands free. And once that's done, I can either turn this off or yeah. So I love having this here. It's very, very nice. It's a nice to have for sure. It's not a must. You can definitely do it without it. I've done it for many, many years just using a dive light. I love, if you are gonna do it, I highly recommend you put the gauge on the light. Huge time saver, and also it's just less of a headache. So yeah, that's what this is. It's a chest light. This one specifically is the Orca Torch TD01. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by them by any means, but the light, I love the light. It has this like twist function on the right to go from, you know, red, I think it's red blinking, bright red off, to the right is, I think, the strong beam, and then low beam. So great light. The last thing I want to cover, it has to do with the gauge, which I should have went over when I was talking about the gauge. But the question might be, where do you put the gauge if it's not on your light? If you want to put it somewhere else, I highly suggest you get one of these kind of cable bungees, how you call it. I don't know the exact name, but essentially it has this cable coated with a coating on the outside. This goes on your D-loop on your weight belt. It's attached to your weight belt. And while you're not using it, and this has obviously the gauge at the other end, you can attach it however way you want. I have mine on a bungee. Just imagine this is my waist right here. It's on my waist. I'm ready to measure. I need to use this. I unclip it. Gives me that ability to use the cable, and then I can extend this out and measure my lobster, put it away, do my thing, put the lobster in the bag, and then to have this a little bit more compact and not dangling around, I just reclip it together, and it stays relatively compact, not totally streamlined. But I found this works really best. I've tried other retractable pieces, but it gets gunked up and then there's issues, and the strings are really tight, or small, I mean, thin. So if the gauge was to get caught on a rock while you're going for lobster and you're on your way up, it can just rip it. So I found this to be the best, but yeah, so that's all the gear. So must-haves, again, just a quick recap: the lobster card, some sort of bag, whether it be, I'll call it the float bag or a large bag or a waist bag, a gauge, and a light. That's a must. The light's pretty much a must. Indicator lights, I highly recommend it for safety purposes, and it helps your buddies out. It's just easier. Even if you're buddy diving, it's just easier, less strain to go find your buddy. And a nice to have is some sort of headlight that you could adapt to put on a chest mount. So I'll link some of the stuff I have here in the description, but again, as long as you have these things, find one that works for you. Last piece I'll say or talk about are some general techniques that I like to use. By no means am I like the best lobster diver, but I feel like after many seasons, I have some things that I've noticed worked and some things I didn't. I've mentioned one of them being how to use the light, or how I like to use the light. Having a strong center beam, use it from the top. Once I get lower, kind of use that aura around it to illuminate where I need to grab when I get closer, to not spook the lobster. Some general techniques I have when they're out in the open, and typically that's at night when they're walking around. What I like to do is when I dive down, As I get closer to the lobster, I minimize any sort of rapid movement that could create vibrations in the water, whether that be harder kicks or me hitting the sea floor, just landing on the sea floor. I try to be as light as possible, quiet, not necessarily quiet, but light, not creating too much disturbance. And once I get close, in theory, I kind of float towards it, and then I'll shine the light away once I know I can use less light, but I can still see it. And then once I get close enough, all I'm seeing is the carapace. I'm looking at that only, and I go for the carapace, and you try to pin the lobster versus just grab, if that makes sense. So you are grabbing, but if you're more trying to pin the lobster, adjust your grip a little bit and then grab. Be firm if it's your first time diving. Lobsters, you can grab them pretty hard. So be confident as you can. Pin it, pinch firm with your fingertips. You don't have to like try to death grip it, but I mean, maybe you can in the beginning, but firm. And then as you're pulling to the surface, you have a good grip on it, yank it off the whatever it's on, a rock or whatnot, and you can maintain that position all the way to the top. What I like to do to help measure, because you're gonna have to move that hand to measure the carapace. So what do you do now? What I do is, let's say this is the lobster. I grab the carapace and I need to adjust. What I do is actually, I grab the tail. And if you're not familiar with grabbing the tail of the lobster, it's pretty spiky. I don't know the exact names, but there's spikes on the edges. It can penetrate your gloves and it's gonna be uncomfortable. Are you gonna bleed? Probably not, but it's uncomfortable a little bit. You can get denser gloves if you like. I like to use the thinner gloves for better feel, but just prepare for that. So I like to grab the tail and dig my fingertips between those spikes to immobilize the lobster from kicking. And it gives me a really good firm grip, and I find that the lobster more or less kind of gives up when you do that. It can still kick, which it will, but carapace, I turn it around this way. I open up the tail a little bit, firm grip on the tail, right hand gets like, let's go. Then I grab my gauge, then I measure the carapace 3 1/4 inch. Make sure the eyes pop out, so you're being firm in front of the eyes, back. Okay, that's a keeper, great. What I'll do here, typically for me, the bag opening is on the left, so I have to move from left hand to right hand, but this is a little bit easier because the carapace is exposed. I'll grab the carapace. I like to have the head side up where my thumb is. Grab the carapace, let go of my left hand, open up my bag, put the lobster in, and before I let go, I squeeze, I cinch my hand, close the opening, and I let go and I slide my hand out. I'm not letting go and then letting this go. It's open, put the lobster in, close it, and then open up your hand in the bag and then slide it out. Because there are many times where those lobsters can latch onto something and they're gone. They are quick if you've ever seen them. So yeah, so that's what I like to do when I measure, and I might alternate. I might grab the tail with the right hand, depending on, I guess, what I'm comfortable with during that time. If you're going for lobsters in holes and you see the antennas right in front of you and the horns, me at this point, I feel pretty comfortable with kind of launching at the horns, and I'm not trying to get the horns. I'm aiming for the stem of the antennas. Those don't break off very easily. If you just grab the antennas, they're gonna rip off. So what I do, if it's just the lobster coming out of the hole or just peeping out of the hole, and you can't get a good reach on the carapace, so not realistically, like you would have to do this and then go down, and at that point the lobster is gonna be scooting back already. I shoot my hand in and I try to aim for one or both of the stems. And honestly, you're probably gonna get poked, whether it be by the horns probably, or the stems, which do typically have sharper thorns or spikes, but it's bearable. So I go in, grab the stem, and typically I don't want to yank it out just yet. I want to firm up my grip on those stems, so I try to adjust my fingertips a little bit. Make sure I have a really good grip at the base of the stem as possible. If I can, I adjust my hand to grab both, and then if I feel good, I'll yank. Or if I don't feel great, but I know the lobster can't go anywhere at that point, but I don't have enough secure power to pull it out, I'll adjust my right hand to grab one stem, and then I will go with my left to grab the other, and then I'll yank it out like this. At this point, I'll hold it, press it against my chest, and then grab tail or the carapace. So that's what I typically do. If the lobster is in the hole and there's just no way at that carapace, that's what I do. And then the last tip I'll share in my experience, if you see a lobster in a hole, well, two tips. One, if you see a lobster in a hole, a big one, there might be a moray eel there. Or even if it's a smaller one, there might be a moray eel. Try to do your best to check beforehand, and how you do so is really just shine your light in there. And if you see any, typically they're not shy, they'll come out and make sure you see them. Yeah, and if that's the case, you're passing on that lobster. You're not going for it, because the moray eel will do some damage. Whether it's a prize lobster that you really, really want, doesn't matter. Yeah, you're moving on, next hole. But the last tip I want to share is, if you see a lobster pretty deep in a hole, but and you're pretty sure you're not going to be able to shove your hand in there in time to grab it effectively, what I do is typically look, and if it seems like there might be an opening on the other side, what I'll do is shine the light in the back and try to see if there's any daylight coming through there. If there is, then what I do is I put my hand toward the lobster, knowing I probably won't be able to grab it. I still give it a shot. Usually I know I'm not gonna be able to grab it. I tickle the lobster or kind of agitate it to get uncomfortable. And when they feel not safe in wherever they're hiding, they'll typically try to jet out. So I know, okay, there's probably an opening over there because I shined the light. I'm gonna try to spook it out of there and then quickly chase after it. It's not a high success rate technique, but it's a technique I've used that has worked from time to time. So, but yeah, lobster season is here. I am very excited. I always get very excited about lobster season because I love to eat lobster, and also my friends like to eat lobster. And something about, I primarily shore dive, and it's something about lobster diving that more or less like evens the playing field. Not saying it's like a competition with people with boats, but it's nice that you kind of go out and more or less to the same general spots to grab and compete to get these lobsters. So I think it's always exciting. Yeah, it's lobster season. So starts on September 26th, 2025 this year. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. If I missed anything, or if you want to share any tips on gear or techniques, please leave them in the comments below. Help your fellow Spiros out. Dive safe. You're typically gonna dive at night. Get a beacon light, seriously. If you don't want to buy they're not even that expensive, but like a nicer one like this, there's cheap ones you could buy that are water activated that you can't recharge. Just get it. It's 1000% worth it. Your buddies will thank you, and God forbid if you do need to be located, it'll be much easier. So dive safe out there. Make sure you have the right gear. Be familiar with your gear, and if you haven't dove at night before, try to go with someone that has that experience, and make sure they're going out with you, not just going at the same time and then they're just doing their own thing. So anyway, hope everyone has a great season this year. Make sure to grab your lobster cards, fill those out, and yeah, dive safe, and I'll see you on the next one.